Hello, everybody! Was that suitably metal an intro? It's your pal Minsk here, presenting to you all a new music feature, review, highlight, whatever you want to call it, show on my channel called Metal Albums with Birds on the Cover. And the concept of this new show is that I will be presenting metal albums that I've listened to in the past month, which feature birds on the cover in some form. And I'll be talking about what my impressions were of the album cover and the album music itself, and whether or not I dug it. And, of course, the burning question probably on a lot of your minds is, why make a show that's about metal albums with just birds on the cover? Well, the TLDR answer is, well, I am rather fond of metal music, and I'm rather fond of birds, so how about I combine that passion? But no, let's talk a little bit more broadly. Of course, I listen to a lot of metal music, especially last year or so. I've tried to listen to a lot that I don't regularly listen to diversify my musical tastes. I noticed how many albums happen to have a bird in some capacity on the cover among my favorite albums. Even more so than birds, you could almost say that would have owls on the cover. That seems to be a perennial favorite for metal bands. For example, the band Nightwish, their probably best album in my opinion, Oceanborn, features a big old snowy owl flying in there. And one of my absolute favorite albums from the last few years is the melodic black metal band Sojourner with their album Premonitions. Just really stunning work of melodic metal that I really love. And there is a big spooky spirit owl thing front and center on that album cover, which is a really lovely piece too. And, the Norwegian band Kvelertak, who really I just adore almost all their work. Just lovely, their weird, black metal / rock and roll vibes. It's they have owls all over their iconography on almost all the album covers and everywhere else. So it's very near and dear. But apart from that, other birds as well. If you want to go back in time, there's that really fun robot eagle thing on Judas Priest's Screaming for Vengeance, a really good classic album as well. Last year, one of the best albums that I enjoyed was Bonjour Tristesse with their album Against Leviathan, which features a raven just covering up half the spooky black metal image, and it's good vibes. And this year, a big contender for my favorite album right now is Solemn by the band In Vain. Just floored me, the opening track, with how diverse their progressive death metal is on this song. And if you look at the album cover, you will notice that there is a sad-looking king surrounded by 3 falcons. I'm going to say those are kestrels, maybe, is my suspicion, but if you have a better idea of what falcons those are, do feel free to write in. Now, I don't know if it's just my own bias, my fondness for birds, that is informing my choices. Certainly I could list off a bunch of really good albums that don't have birds on the cover. But I do wonder if it's somehow affecting me. But I thought that that would be a fun concept for a monthly show, is to go through the albums that I noticed being released, or that I happened to just pick up on at the time, that happened to have a bird on the cover, and just really listen through those and give my impressions. I think that'll be a fun way to get a lot of interesting perspectives on metal music, and I hope you guys will enjoy it as well. I am not really qualified to review music because I haven't studied music theory. I barely even know any terms about music. So I can only really talk about feels and some real bunkum caveman talk about what me like. So if you're looking for really cutting music critique, you're probably better served finding a different YouTube channel. There's a lot of them, so I'm sure you won't have any huge problems. But if you just want to like have an interesting themed recommendation show of like what to listen to, just like interesting songs picked up with this a bit of a gimmicky theme, but I think it's a fun way to like get a broad strokes of like different music in the metal scene, then I hope you will enjoy this show. Let's not dilly-dally any further. Let's roll up the first album and what the bird was and what I thought of it. Enjoy. Okie dokie. So, the very first album that we are going to be taking a look at on this show is already kind of a peculiar one, but a really good one, though. I'll just spoil that right now. This is Amorphis with their new release, Tales from the Thousand Lakes, live at Tavastia. So, really useless trivia here, just real quick like. One of the best databases for information on metal music online is the Encyclopedia Metallum, Metal Archives, metal-archives.com. On that website, Amorphis is actually the first band ever submitted to that website. Like, they have ID number 1 in the database. So, I suppose, in that sense, it's fitting that the very first band we cover here is Amorphis. No. So, the quick primer on Amorphis. This is a really big name in the Finnish metal scene. Like, they are a super important band to Finnish music, having played, over 30 years now. They are also, like, really, really important to early melodic death metal, their influence. Like, they started out as a rather death metal band with some, like, progressive influence, and you can already hear, like, a really proto sound of what melodic death would become later on in their music. It's that early 90s kind of really raw death metal, but with the incorporation of, keyboard fills and, harmonizing guitars a little bit to, like, give it that melodic punch. And Tales from the Thousand Lakes being discussed here is, like, a super important. It's their second album. It is like an incredibly important release in the genre. It's like, again, like a proto cornerstone of melodeath. Now the band itself, it changed a lot as it went on. In the late 90s, they moved away from death metal to more I don't know, power metal. The progressive influences became stronger while the death metal influences fell out. So it's like really melodic, progressive, kind of powerish metal. And then they had a bit of a slump, I would say, at the turn of the millennium, but then they got their current singer, Tommy Joutsen, around 2003, 2004, which really revitalized the band. The music just punched a lot harder, and I'd say the death metal influences started to creep back a little bit, more and more, because Mr. Joutsen is a really talented singer. He can handle the clean vocals and the heavy guttural roars equally well. He's a very good singer, so him joining the band like really steered that boat around, and like Amorphis is like a huge thing right now in Finland. They're incredibly important to the scene. Right, so looking at this cover art, like really great first cover art to go through, because we are right away hit with a big eagle just coming at you. It's very in your face, and I appreciate that. So no, spying like, where's the bird in this picture this time? It's just like absolutely coming at you. This album art is a remake of the single release of Black Winter Day. Like, you can go look that up, and it's pretty much the same picture, but I appreciate this remake. It's got like a scratchier look to it, while the other one was like very more traditional art painted. And like, yeah, the whole juxtaposition of the moon there in the background, full moon glowing and lighting up this eagle, just coming at ya. It's really good. And I really like that the band took their old logo from those first two albums, slapped it back there. That's very fun. So yeah, onto the album itself. Right, so again, I mentioned, like, this is the 30th anniversary release, sorta, kinda, of Tales from the Thousand Lakes. came out in '94. It's, again, a really important album in metal music. So this is a live recording at Tavastia, which is like the most famous nightclub, like rock club in Finland. It's in Helsinki. And yeah, they basically recorded this album, played this album in its entirety and recorded it for this release at Tavastia. But here's the weird thing, why I'm like kind of like, huh? So this is a live recording, but it's not a live concert. There's no crowd there. Like, no one is like, there's no like crowd reaction because there's nobody there. They like rented out an empty Tavastia just to like record this album. So really, this just feels like, you know, an anniversary recording of the album with their new singer Tommy Joutsen. I say new in, quotation marks, since he's been for 20 years there as well. But you know what I mean. And just for whatever reason, they wanted to jam live instead of in a recording studio. Like, I looked up that this might have to do with the lockdown, the pandemic. Like, this might actually have been recorded back then when obviously all the clubs were closed. So, okay, I guess that kind of makes sense, kinda, in that sense. Then that, like, this was something they did in the interim when they couldn't tour, and, they waited until this long for the 30th anniversary. That checks out. Yeah, I don't know. They did a similar release, like, a decade ago. They made the album Magic and Mayhem, which was like a selection of songs from their first 3 albums, with Tommy Joutsen on the vocals. But this one's like a nice, like, because it didn't have all the songs from Tales from a Thousand Lakes. This one's like a nice, like, let's get all of them in there. Yeah, and I mean, I'm kind of reviewing the original album, but like I'm reviewing this new version. Like, it's an absolute classic of melodic death. The original album is a little too raw for my taste, so I don't like listen to it super often. I will admit that I think the Tommy Joutsen era of Amorphis is their strongest like material, especially those first 4 Kalevala albums that they made. But I do appreciate Tales from the Thousand Lakes, and I think this was a really fun listening experience to hear this album with like better recording, like even though it's live instead of a studio, like recording quality is higher. It doesn't sound nearly as raw, and just like the modern sensibilities of what Amorphis has turned into, like reinterpreting those old like kinda melodeath but really leaning into death metal versions into a little bit more progressive. But still, this one does not have Tommy Joutsen doing very many clean vocals compared to their regular fare, since it still is based on that early stuff. But like he can do it. He can belt out the like the harsh vocals just fine. So it works really fine. And my main takeaways were that I feel like the keyboard is way more prominent than it was in the original album. Like, the first opening song, Thousand Lakes, that's just an intro track. That seemed to just be the original one. But then I did a little bit of like back and forth listening to Into Hiding, the first real song, on this version and the old version. And yeah, whenever the keyboard shows up, it's like way more audible here on the live album. And there's more variety. It seemed to be more like church organs or just pure piano 30 years ago, but here there's like actually like Hammond organ vibes. It's kind of wacky. Like Magic and Mayhem I was listening to, and that particular, it sounded like a 90s Squaresoft RPG, like boss music. You remember how they just loved shoving that Hammond organ into all the music back then, Nobuo Uematsu and the other like composers. So that it's the same energy there. And Black Winter Day like has like it was more piano-y on the original, but I listened to it now, the opening, it's got almost like a dungeon synthy vibe to it now, which is a really fun interpretation. I really enjoy it. Other stuff that I noticed, like I felt that they play some songs a little bit faster, which actually kind of, I don't know, it's kind of odd because that seems like that would make it more death metal, but I guess they were one of those plodding death metal bands, I feel like, in their early years, so yeah. And I also like something just like there's the second real song, the third track, The Castaway. it sounded to me a little bit, the opening, like they were playing in more of a major key. So while the original sounds a little bit more menacing, or like mysterious, this one sounds like actually kind of like hyped up, like a little pepped up version, which is kind of interesting. So altogether, I had a lot of good fun listening to this album, and I think it really holds up the original, and I think this one complements it really nicely. I don't know what the general vibe is with the metal community of like how they compare modern Amorphis to the old one. I feel like Amorphis dodged the situation that like In Flames is in, where like all the all the dialogue around their music seems to revolve around their original sound versus like what they turned into. But like Amorphis just seems to be appreciated for both of those. I don't know, maybe it helps because the band themselves, as heard here, loves their original stuff still, even though they evolved into something less heavy, you could say. I don't know. So there's two more songs at the end of the album after playing through Tales from the Thousand Lakes. Just a couple more tributes to their old works. They got Vulgar Necrolatry from their very first album, Carillion Isthmus, and that's like pure death metal. I would almost pure death metal. The keys do not have a lot to work there, so it's just kind of funny to hear that. And then, of course, they have Mai Kantele from their third album, Elegy, which is a mainstay of their live shows too. And it makes sense that they play because it's just it's their most proggiest song on this album. It's just a better album ender than Magic and Mayhem would have been, in my opinion. Yeah. So this is a really good album that I strongly recommend. Especially if you haven't listened to the original, then I think this one's worth taking a spin. There's two releases. There's an LP release, and there's a CD with a Blu-ray DVD attached. But that seems a little superfluous since there's no crowd. I don't see the appeal of just watching the band jam on an empty club stage. So I'm not sure I would recommend getting the CD DVD package. I would say if you need to have physical, then the vinyl is probably worth it for sure. And if they release just the audio digitally, I would really recommend getting that. This is super good stuff. So, yeah. Next up, it's Dream Evil with their 7th album, Metal Gods. Another new serving from Sweden's, I fear they're a fairly big name in the big hero metal, power metal-ish genre, I know these guys' names. I definitely remember listening to these as a teenager at some point. I do admit I can't remember any single song name from them from back in the day, but I must have listened to a couple of songs when they were like early in their career. All I can think of right now is Dio's song Dream Evil, which I'm pretty sure is where they got their band name, so good job on that, and I just screwed me up, guys. Okay, now here's the problem. This is only the second album I am now looking at here on this show, and I'm already confronted with the pernicious question that I was worried about that I'd have to face sooner or later, and now it's really soon, is how do I judge fictional / supernatural / mythological birds, or bird-like entities, and where do I draw the line on accepting them on this show? So, to preface, I would love to put some, big mythological birds if they show up on album covers. I would be perfectly happy to feature that album then on this show, Phoenixes are a beloved motif. Of course I'm going to have an album with a phoenix on the cover on the show. Are you kidding me? Native American Thunderbird, if there ever was a metal album cover with one on it, yes. I don't know, the rock of Arabian mythology, the Jub bird from Alice in, I think that's Through the Looking Glass is one that. Okay, so I can't think of a lot of good examples apart from the phoenix of fictional, really obvious fictional birds. Can't even think of a ton of pure fictional birds, but you get my point. Those are awesome, and I would totally feature those here on the show. Then whenever something with bird-like features, like an angel, nah, come on. Just just having bird wings slapped on a guy or a gal. No, that's boring. No. Angel is not enough to get on this show. No. But then there's all the in-between between those extremes, right? Like for example, a griffin, which is half eagle and half lion. Wow, blank there. Well, what's the other half? Well, it's a show about birds, so you can't expect me to remember the other half. I think griffins are pretty damn cool, so I kinda would want to feature an album cover with a griffin on it. Of course, this album cover, after I was confronted with a griffin, I quickly realized, wait a second, that's not even a griffin. Those aren't lion parts on the bottom half of this thing. It's got arms and legs like a person, and some kind of devilish tail. So, this is more of a gargoyle that's based on an eagle rather than a devil, you know? Is this appropriate for the show? I don't know. I am very, provincially, featuring this album here on this show now, on the first episode. This might have to be something I consider later on. This might be just an example of, early installment weirdness. If I have to, mull over this question. But for now, we'll talk about this album cover. And this album, yeah. The album cover, I don't know. I guess it's an alright album cover. I don't think the weird steampunk elements nor the Geiger-esque ribs on the arms of this eagle monstrosity really add anything to it, so I would have probably liked it more as just a pure marble statue kind of thing. I only now realize what they're probably going for here is the first song on this album, The Eponymous Metal Gods, name-checks Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, and Man-O-War, also calling out Unleashed in the East and Number of the Beast from the first two mentioned bands. So I think this creature is trying to combine elements of all three aforementioned bands, I think. The big chonky eagle is of course on Man-O-War's Battle Hymns was the one with the beefy eagle, right? Hold on, I gotta really quickly Google this. Oh, egg on my face if I got this one wrong. Yes, no, yes, it's exactly. That's a very funny album cover, by the way. Please look up Man-O-War's Battle Hymns. The devilish features kind of lean towards Number of the Beast, and I guess the kind of steampunky gears kind of refer to the general, robot kind of vibes on the characters on the covers of Judas Priest albums. So if that's what they're going for, then okay, kind of fun. I like it. But it's not super interesting. Maybe I'm just being thrown off by my hesitance to allow this monstrosity to pass the bird on the cover quota. I don't know, but I think this could have been a more interesting album cover. The music is kind of the same. Admittedly, they come out hitting hard with the opening, with big, heavy metal chorus chanting the name of the song and just a wall of sound. So they piqued my interest, and the first two, three songs have some pretty catchy kind of. Again, Man-O-War and that kind of beefed up heavy metal comes through rather strongly with the occasional power ballads in there. So they catch my interest with that, definitely at the beginning, a pretty good showing, but I do think this album doesn't carry its weight to the end. I think it loses it loses me pretty quickly. I don't think the rest of the songs are particularly interesting, more just retreads of that kind of pumped up hero metal kind of music. It just wasn't catchy, unfortunately, after the pretty good opening showing. So, this isn't I'm gonna make a return to this band I checked out years ago. I can't say I'm particularly warmed up for Dream Evil after this showing. Sorry, fellas. Good effort on the start there, but I don't know. Probably need something catchier for the finish. Yeah. Alright, so here we have the band Ende with their, let me check my notes here, their 6th album, L'Aube des Anathèmes. Je suis désolé pour ma prononciation terrible, but I hope my French francophone viewers can put up. So this is seems to be an example of classic French black metal. Black metal is provided by the French scene, which means I personally feel like it's got a bit of an occult vibe to it. Is, I don't know, the impression I've always had with the majority of like French black metal that I've heard. Right, so there is definitely a bird here on this cover. It's a little hard to tell what the heck is going on in this cover. Like, it's like there are bones on the bottom. I think there's some kind of funeral pyre made out of bones, and this conflagration is creating like this updraft that this bird is either caught inside or is being birthed out of. I'm also having trouble telling what bird exactly this is. That shape and the head, it could like be a seagull. Honestly, I'm not a hundo on this, and I'm not sure. Is it getting stabbed by that pointy thing? I don't know. So I don't really know what to make of this cover. It's certainly got black metal energy, and I also appreciate, like I said, it's got more occult energy going on than like pure, blarg Satanism, upside down crosses and goofy visuals like that. Like there's something a little bit more mysterious going on here. Of course, I also have to point out that Ende is clever enough to put a bird in their logo. If you look up top there, they have some kind of raptor there flying. That's part of their logo that they've had since their 2nd album. I checked. That is when they started using this logo. At first they had a more standard black metal, like kind of scratched looking letters thing going on, but then for the 2nd album, The Rebirth of I, they already came up with this logo. Now, some could say that that's cheating to have the bird on the logo. I would say that that's just clever. Like now, basically, whenever this band makes an album, I'm gonna have to feature them here on the show. If the show does indeed go on long enough for more Ende albums to come out. So, well played, you crazy French black metal nerds. Well done. As for the music itself, I wasn't particularly moved, if we're perfectly honest. It's, I'm just... Standard black metal isn't, like, really my cup of tea. The sketchier parts, of course, are a chapter to themselves, but if we ignore the, like, sketchier black metal, like, even still, like the standard classical black metal is, I don't find it particularly interesting. I'm not a fan of the sound. And this one kind of leans very heavily on that. It feels very like traditional 90s black metal inspired, like early 90s. There's some amount of like church organs, pipe organs used in the mix to like provide outros or intros or like a little bit of an interlude in the like music, but otherwise it's what you might expect, which is a lot of really scratchy, black metal snarls and like just like very intense like non-stop blast beat drumming. And that's not entirely true. Like there's some amount of variety in some of the songs. And there are breaks taken at times, but most of the time it feels like the drums are just banging out like a non-stop, high-speed beat for the music. So I can't say that this one really grabbed me all that much. It seems competent black metal album. The kind of breaks, like the Cabal Nocturne, it was kind of fun. It was a little bit of a slower song there. And the final song, Renaissance, has a nice like build up, but then it kind of goes into, again, what you expect out of a black metal song, which is a whole lot of screaming and just really fast drumming and some like, just like really pounding guitar riffs. Yeah, might grab the more black metal oriented of you. Wasn't really a big hit for me myself. Yeah. Alright, well, this is a punk rock album, so this doesn't exactly match the metal theme, but it's horror punk and it takes there's a little bit of gothic metal vibes in it, so I really enjoyed this album, so I'll include it in today's episode. It is Hellgreaser with their album Hymns of the Dead, a horror punk outfit. I couldn't quite get the grasp, is this their second or third album, because it's like their second album was a greatest hits album. I don't know, whatever. Listening to it the first time, had a good time. Yeah, there's a lovely flock of crows here in this album art here, serenading the rise of this greaser zombie here, skeleton, whatever. Yeah, I really like this album cover. The black and white of the zombie character, who I think is Roddy Tops' brother, Poe from the Shantae games, here to bring some rockabilly horror for us. Anyway, his like black and white look and then the like stark yellow of the background just like looks really cool. I dig it a lot. The birds, add to the ambience of the picture. I dig it a lot, yeah. The music, yes, I am pretty happy with this album as a punk rock rollicking punk rock outfit thing. It's it's ostensibly horror punk, so it's like leaning towards the Misfits, for example, but you can feel it in there. Like there's like a lot of like rockabilly vibes in there combined with a little bit of like more skate punk vibes. So honestly, I would think more of Bad Religion came to my mind, or like the Pet Sematary vibes of the Ramones. It's really rolling good fun punk rock. If you are into punk, I think this one's a pretty well done setup. The horror comes through in the couple of first few songs, where there's some really fun kinda old-timey piano fills, and then some like spooky synth fills like in between the rocking to give it a bit of a horror vibe, but it's a really fun horror vibe because it's just kind of a fun punk album. It like more evokes like hammer horror silliness than like any kind of more heady or intense horror, so it's all together, it's really fun. The latter half of the album, I felt like those like synth accompaniments kind of fell out, and it was a little bit more straightforward Bad Religion or Pennywise like skate punk, I guess. Would have maybe liked a little bit more of those little fills there from the like little spooky synth backing up the music, to give it a little bit of more of its own flair. But I really do like skate punk, so it's not like I had a huge problem with that latter half either. Yeah. So, I admit it's probably not one-to-one with the, metal side. Might not, the gothic metal influence might not be quite enough for the pure metal heads. But I give this a big recommend. I had a really good time with this album. Okay, now we're talking. Look at this album art. This is In Heart's Wake with their 6th album, Incarnation, which I keep looking at first as Incantation, but it is not that. Just look at the spelling there. It's Incarnation, so I need to freaking get that in my brain correct. Yeah, this is pretty classic metalcore coming from Australia, the promised land of metalcore for some reason. I don't know why. I think these guys are from the same place as Parkway Drive, from what I was reading. Oh well. This album cover slaps. I really love the color choices here. Brooding dark violet juxtaposed with like silvery and with like yellow. Good stuff. There's a barn owl just up in your face in the middle of the picture. Very mysterious owls, spooky birds, and barn owls, especially spooky with those creepy alien eyes. And there's like, juxtaposed with those, I don't even know what, those appear to actually be beetles, not butterflies or flies. And worms, kind of carrion creatures. What is going on in this picture. And then the tarot theme is slapped on with the devil and I think that's the High Priestess card, on there, Oh, yeah, this is a really cool album cover. I really dig it. And the bird is, of course, very lovely in this one. Ooh, yeah. About the music. So this one, like I said, it's pretty hard-hitting metalcore that you might expect from the genre. I enjoyed it going in, definitely. I had a good time just with the first few songs. The first two songs both do the thing where they shout the song name in your face at the start. Very fun. I feel like very djenty influences, which I think is something that happens a lot in metalcore in the current day. Initial impression was good. It started to wear out its welcome somewhere around the halfway point. It's all a lot of aggression, and I personally, of course, I like melodic metalcore more than the more standard fare, I suppose. Just like, you can tell that I like melodic death, and I like, or power metal with also like big melodies. That just I'm the kind of goober who goes for that over the more pure aggression. But this one is a pretty aggressive album altogether. A lot of djenty riffs, which are fun, and some pretty angry breakdowns. The song Orphan is almost hilarious because it just seems to just keep ramping with the breakdowns throughout the song, so that's pretty funny. But also, I would get really exhausted listening to that very often. So not my jam exactly. So yeah, I do feel like this album did kind of lose I lost the thread with this album somewhere around song 6 or 7. It started to kind of blend into itself, unfortunately. So what I read online, this is apparently a pretty popular band, but this is my first time listening to them, so my apologies for my cluelessness once again. But from what I read, the band is currently without a bassist. The bassist departed on good terms from the band. They had a sad farewell song that they made that's not on this album, but just like I made like a little last song together. But he was also the guy doing clean vocals, so now they don't have a clean vocals singer here. It's just Jake Taylor is the lead vocalist now, and he's all about those harsh metalcore screams. Which, yeah, you can do songs with that, but I think this album could have benefited from, having some clean vocals in the mix. I've seen impressions online, when listening to this music, of people being pretty happy with the heavy turn that this took. Also seen people being sad about this, the bassist Kyle Eric, and his departure. But the band seems to have picked it up, and the fans seem to be taking it in stride. So that's good. Me personally, I would have liked some clean sections. Would have probably helped the songs on this album pop out a little bit more, so that it didn't kind of muddy itself towards the end there. Now, all that said, then there's the final song, Transmission. And this song, man, this got me like, what? Because I said that, I like the melodic metalcore, but I'm not into the breakdown stuff. I guess someone might say, what's the point than listening to metalcore? But, it's my stance, and I'll stick with my guns. But yeah, so like the more melodic stuff then. And then this final song just slaps you with this amazing kind of melodic tune with some really way more major key playing to really kind of pick you up. It just ooh, got me really excited. Transmission. It's a really good song. it really just whole flips the album around. This is a really good textbook case of why often, you know, you lose out something on just picking and plucking songs at random. Like, albums are put together with an intent. Often, anyway. Like, there is probably more or less thinking going into the order of songs. And here it really comes through after all of that just really angry music for the first 10 songs. Have, like, this kind of, like, you know, here you go. Here's something to, like, take you away from that headspace and move into something more positive. Like, you can try to, like, build into something more positive with this final just, like, awesome rocking track. It just works really fantastically. And you know, the constant refrain of the song is the line, "Where do I belong?" And it's like a very questioning song. I looked up the lyrics, and it's very much dealing with the loss of someone close to you, and like, can you move on in the world? And the song is very questioning for the most part, but I love how like upbeat and uplifting the song itself is. So it's like almost wordlessly answering the question by being like, yes, you can move on from this loss, and you can find somewhere to belong in the world again. So yeah, this freaking final song, Transmission, is kind of whoa. It really like got me. So I'm really happy with how this turned out in the end. Do I recommend the entire album? I don't know. Like, I think I'll have to listen to this album a second time to see if I can pick up something more out of the like the you know, the middle part of this album, you know, so that like I can appreciate that payoff at the end more. But at least for that final song, Transmission is definitely going in my rotation of music that I listen to, you know, on the side, you know, for the near future at least, because I just really like that song. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this endeavor. I know it sounds like I'm only hyping up one single song. It was a fine ride, and then it just like really roller coastered into something awesome. So good on ya. Okay, next up is a big release here. It is Orden Ogan's 8th album, The Order of Fear. Now, from my notes, Orden Ogan actually translates to Order of Fear, sorta, kinda. So this is in a way a self-titled album, so you can tell this is a big deal, this presentation here. Right, so Orden Ogan's, I would say it's a pretty big name. I will have to admit that this is my first time listening to the band. I'm not actually, I don't think I realized that they sort of power metal. I may have expected, I don't know, black metal or folk metal, honestly, myself. But it's a rather power metal-y presentations, and they've been playing for a good long while, close to 30 years now. So honestly, if this is what they've been doing this whole time, then it's kind of interesting. Like, I feel like they've been a little bit ahead of their times with the music in that case, since this reminds me of a lot of like modern power metal. But it's indeed their 8th album, so good job on that front. The bird is easy enough to spot here. Look to the top right, no, sorry, the bottom right, and you will see a little raven there cawing on top of the skull, as our hero, Alistair Vale, here is commanding these wraiths, or exorcising them, or something. Yep, nice little addition of a bird there to add to the ambience. I'm kind of not a fan of this album art, even though it's like technically very nicely done. I really appreciate the color scheme. The designs on the ghosts are cool. I think what kind of draws it down for me is the red amulet in the character's hand. It clashes so much with the rest of the picture with the color, so it draws your eye to it, but like not for any good purpose. Like like the amulet itself is very unclear what it is, and there's nothing really going on in that part of the picture, really. Now, this is the mascot of the band, Victorian gentleman Alistair Vale. I'm not familiar with the band's lore, so I can't comment on how important this amulet is and the fact that it's all red and drawing the attention like that, but, you know, from a purely, like, low context standpoint, I think it kind of doesn't work. think the other problem, I don't know, I feel like all the elements of this picture are a little spread out, so there's like a lot of like unnecessary like space here, like the moon, the mansion, Alistair, the crow. They're all like kind of spread out. I don't know, like I would have liked a tighter picture. I think what I would have liked is if this picture was cropped to about 75% from the bottom left, and if you moved the moon to the left side of the image, and I think like then like all the elements would be in the image a little bit better. Now then, of course, there wouldn't be room for the album title, so you'd have to like, or like the band name title, excuse me, you'd have to rethink that, but I think you could figure something out. In addition, the Raven would have to then be like moved as well, or we'd lose out on that, and for the purposes of this show, that would be bad. So maybe it's okay that the image is like this. The music itself, like, I really did enjoy it. Like, that it surprised me positively. As I alluded, this is more of like modern power metal, by which I mean I think it feels a little bit more macho, to you know, in the lack of a better word, I guess. Basically, you know, it reminds me of like Sabaton or Powerwolf in terms of like power metal, where the lyrics are not like really high, like they're not exactly as deep and rumbly as Joachim Rodin in Sabaton, but like they're like, you know, a little more standard, not the like kind of Stradivarius wailing that you think, or Rhapsody kind of thing that you imagine with power metal, along with some like really chunky guitar riffs, you know. They're like, you know, just walls of guitars. There's plenty of like guitar solos, fast-paced ones, like, you know, just like picking that guitar, as well as like, you know, big fills with the keyboards. But, you know, it just reminds me of like what popular power metal is like right now, with like, you know, just big and kind of chunky feel to it. And I dig it a lot. Like, I'm really happy to have listened to this album. It's Orden Ogan's pretty cool, as far as I can tell. If this is what their past albums sound like as well, then it's a pretty good band. I really enjoyed this one. Dreadlord and the title track, The Order of Fear, are standouts to me. Also, quite the opening, the first song, Kings of the Underworld, just really launches into it. Like, I was like, okay, let's do this when I started listening to the album, and that's what they opened up with. And then, you know, they finish with the like kind of more standard, like, you know, big, you know, epic, you know, song that has like lots of stages. The Long Darkness builds up to a lot of stuff going on. Also kind of fun, you know, fun feeling. Reminds me of like a couple of Ailstorm albums, like Back Through Time has the big one with Death Throes of the Terror Squid, just kind of ending it all. And the next one, or this one has like Sunset at the Golden Age is like also like a big chunky album ender. Same kind of idea going on here. Strong vibe from this band. Yeah, the crow is cool. The art is pretty cool despite my misgivings. Could have been tightened up, but it's alright. And the music is pretty neat. This is a pretty good recommendation from yours truly. Okay, let's check this out then. This is Sear Bliss with their 9th album, Heavenly Down. These guys have been making atmospheric black metal for about 30 years now, which is pretty groovy. Coming to you from Hungary, this is my first time listening to them as well, and I am pretty delighted to have done so. The bird in this album cover is small but commanding, the black raven dead center there, leading this pale maiden towards what appears to be a black hole. That's ominous. So check it out. This motif of the black raven leading this white maiden is something that repeats in their early album work. So now that they've come back to this concept, I don't know if that's like a sign that this is kind of a return to their roots musically or something. That's the implication. I don't know. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, it's my first time with this band as well. But I am going to probably have to listen to some of their early work now. So this album, this album cover in general, it just slaps. I love the art for this album right here. We've already talked about the central theme here, it's so nicely framed that it's like dead center there. It's small, but the open space really like gives it, between these two trees, gives it like the space it needs, and like really like draws your attention to it. The colors are very well done here. I love the blue and yellow contrast here. And I really like the kind of more pastel-y colors here in in the background where the main characters are happening, versus the more darker shades on the trees here to the side, which help frame the image. Not to mention, I didn't even notice this at first, but it was like a little surprise if you keep staring at the picture long enough, is you find this nice little detail of these weird dryad creatures ripping out of the trees to stalk the bird and the woman. Like, what is going on there, you wonder? I don't know, but it's like when I noticed that, I was like, oh, that's so cool. So yeah, this is a freaking awesome album cover. The music itself is also awesome. I'm happy to say that this this delivers on as much as awesome as it promises with this album cover. I love this record. Sear Bliss did some amazing atmospheric black metal here. It's what you might expect from the genre, so like big sweeping, orchestral vibes, layered with some, slightly slower black metal that's, more to like make a mood of, well, lots of moods. Like there's this grandiosity that's often there, but there's also like this sense of wonder and mystery that's some of the slightly more quieter songs provide to you. So it also like provides like a nice bevy of various moods and feels this album. There's a couple of tracks that feel a little bit more like traditional black metal, which kick off with some like pretty high-speed drumming and mainly just like snarling lyrics over like some like just very aggressive kind of music. Even those, then the progressive influences get in there, and those like songs go to places. But there's a couple where we like go through some more typical black metal emotions. But overall, it's more for the atmospheric, moody stuff here, and I love that shit, so it's great. Also have to give props to the band having a trombonist in it. I believe Zoltán Pál was the name of the trombone player. I always find that interesting when you have a brass section in extreme metal. It's always like a brave choice, and it sounds great here. At times it adds to the somberness of a lot of the music. Then there's also moments where it like adds like magnificent grandeur. There's the Upper World, I believe, was the name of the third song. Yes, that one at times feels like it could be like sweeping shot of like a landscape in like a really dramatic sword and sandals adventure movie. Like that's the kind of feeling that the trombone provides to like dramatic music there. So heck yeah, I'm so happy that I got to listen to this album here. A good freaking job from the guys at Sear Bliss. I'm instant fan. Alrighty, next up we have the band Spektra with their second album, Hypnotized, that released recently. It's the short of it is that it's very, very big arena rock. Might not exactly count as metal at all. Another example that is very much of a corner case, but we'll talk about it anyway. I think the album art is pretty cool. I really dig this. The color choices are pretty wild, with yellow, purplish blue, and magenta slapped in there. And when it comes to birds, there's some very obvious doves flying around here. A nice big flock of doves to the right here, kind of breaking up the light yellow side of the picture. I like this picture quite a lot. The birds, I think this is one of many flock of birds in the background album covers that we're covering this month, and quite likely in future months. But in this picture, I think they're adding a little bit more than just ambience. I think this picture is trying to encapsulate motion frozen into an image, most obviously from the pendulum swinging on the clock there to add to the hypnosis thing. Very reminiscent, of course, of System of a Down's Mesmerize and Hypnotize. Natch. Although the music is not very similar at all. But yeah, also like birds when flying are in motion by necessity. Unless it's a bird of prey gliding on a fumarole. Is that the right word? What's the like when there's like a big updraft of hot air and a bird of prey is like gliding sort of kind of? You know what? That doesn't matter. Anyway, so I think it adds to that same sense of like motion that's been frozen into this image. So I do like the addition of birds here, and I like this picture quite a bit. The music itself, I don't have much to say. I found this album, unfortunately, rather unremarkable. It's it's like big arena rock that evokes Journey, and I'm not really huge on that kind of music, and I'll say that this didn't exactly do something wild with the genre that would have made me like perk up and go, oh, okay, no, I can't dig this. There's some like fun 80s synth like backs there, especially in the first song, Freefall. That kind of got me like, okay, and then it kind of cratered because it's a lot of like forlorn 80s love ballad type music. The sort of music you might listen to if you pulled up onto Venice Beach in a convertible car and sat on the hood watching the sunset and paint the world orange. I don't know what people did in the 80s. Well, you get what I'm saying. The second to last song, titled Running Out of Time 2, that actually had like a little bit of pep to it. It had... It was kind of like a pretty like rocking riff and a little bit more like oomph, so they kind of saved the best for last there a little bit. Otherwise, it was a whole lot of like Journey worship, 80s worship, arena rock, maybe. Is it metal? I don't know, whatever. It didn't tickle my fancy, I'm sorry to say, but the picture's good, so good job on that front at least. Okay, and then we have Voice with their album Holy or Damned. This is actually the band's... This was a long-time band. They'd actually been playing for a long time, since the mid-90s. This is their 6th album, that's right. They took a several-year break between 2003 and 2017. Now they've been back at it lately. This album I almost looked over on when looking at albums that have birds on the cover, right? Like I was going through recent releases and other interesting albums and trying to check which ones have birds on them, and this one I almost didn't approve, because first I just looked at the big angel guy and I'm like, an angel? Nah, that's not good enough. That doesn't pass muster. You know, bird wings, but not good enough. So I was not gonna take this for consideration. But if you look just a wee bit longer at the album cover here, you will see a flock of birds. I'm gonna guess those are crows, all flocking about around the angel guy. Nice little contrast there with black silhouettes of birds contrasted with this shock white angel figure. I guess that's cool. Otherwise, it's not. I'm not particularly interested by this album cover. It's okay, and yeah, the birds aren't doing a whole lot in this one, but it's good enough to get on the show. I guess the that cool classic stark red logo up there, nicely clashes with the serene blues of the rest of the album cover, so I guess that's the best part, yeah. As for the music, this one is some more, real traditional metal plugging here. I'll say to its credit that it is heavier than Spektra that we reviewed just a second ago here. This is more classic heavy metal, bit power metal leanings. I'd say we're now at the level of at least Scorpions when talking about Voice here. So good on that front, but I do admit that this album, much like Spektra, didn't really elicit much emotions from me. There's classic style heavy metal riffs in here, and some bit of more ballady moments. This one's not as keyboard heavy as Spektra was, but it doesn't have anything unique jumping out for me, unfortunately. Here as well, one of the last songs, Only Grey Remain, was the surprise hit. That one's got kind of a catchy riff to it that's doing some interesting stuff. That's the most metal song on this album, I feel like, and I appreciated that one the most. Weirdly, there are not one, not two, but 3 bonus songs on apparently the CD release, and they're not even the last songs on the album. They're squeezed in just before the last song. So that's kind of baffling, and Only Grey Remain is one of those bonus tracks, so I believe it's the CD bonus, so if you get the vinyl, I can't promise that the song is even there, in which case there's a lot of, it's competent, but it just didn't jump at me in any major way, this music, I'm sorry to say. Who knows, maybe their older stuff might have catchier, old school heavy in there, but this one just was, I guess, worth a listen, but it's not going to stick with me. I'm sorry to say. Oh well. Alright, and that was it for July 2024, the inaugural episode of Metal Albums with Birds on the Cover. Well, I had certainly a good time going through these first few albums and compiling this first little highlight. I hope you folks at home had also a good time, and I hope something there caught your fancy out of all the albums we looked at. I have to say, it was an eclectic mix of music right away, which I'm really happy to see. We went from pretty easy stadium AOR metal up to pretty hazy French occult black metal with a bunch of stuff in between. That's not even exaggerating. Those were 2 of the albums we listened to today. So yeah, good stuff. Interesting trends there, how a lot of the albums I was like, yeah, it kind of lagged, but then there was a real nice song hidden at the end. Haven't really paid attention. Does that happen often or not? Because I feel like a lot of albums front load the big hits at the start, and then the other stuff comes at the end. Yeah, I don't know. My theory of do I have a big bias towards albums with birds on the cover is so far not confirmed, because I'd say it was about 50-50 in terms of albums I liked versus I didn't like. And even then, I think there was only 3 albums there. No, 4? I don't know. Whatever. It was about 50-50, so not a bias, at least, in that sense. It's not like a majority of these I was like, heck yeah. But I don't think that's entirely the point of this show. I'm not sure if I did clarify that at the, beginning when I explained the premise, but the goal here is also to get a wide variety of music listened to broaden horizons, so to speak. I feel like I've been doing a good job of that, because I've been listening to a bunch of music simply based on what's come out recently by looking at tips, not just get pigeonholed into the 1 or 2 genres that I personally like. Although I have really just stayed in the boundaries of metal music, so I suppose I haven't been that broad in my tastes, but inside the wider variety of metal, I could stay in a really small corner if I really so wished to. So I think the reason, the little gimmick we have here for this show of is there a bird on the cover? If yes, then we listen to it. Is a fun way to bring a lot of variety for me and for you folks at home. I don't know. By the way, I have rethought about it. The weird bird on the cover of that French black metal album, Ende, I do think that might actually be a peacock, is my current theory. If you go back and look at the cover, what I thought were parts of the smoke or flame billowing around the bird might actually be big tail feathers. It's hard to tell again with that stark black and white album cover, but that's my final theory on that one. Also, a funny aside that I realized that I did not think about it while talking about it, but when I was talking about how fitting it was that Amorphis was the very first band featured here on this show, I didn't even think about the fact that Tommy Joutsen, who I kept harping on how cool he is, his last name is Finnish for swan, which is, of course, a bird. So that's an interesting little coincidence there. Now that just made me go, ooh, when that coincidence, came to me. But that's fun. But yeah, this was a really fun experiment. I would love to hear what you folks thought. Was my ramblings about music on point at all? And were you inspired to pick up any of these albums or give a listen to these bands? I would be very interested in also hearing on that side. Please check the description of this video beneath. You will find links to the band camps of these bands when applicable, or to other sources, best as I could find, where you can get the album if you were inspired to get any of this month's albums. Personally, my big recommendation definitely goes for Sear Bliss. That album was very, very impactful. Reminded me of Sojourner, which I name dropped in the opening to this video. Sort of similar, epic sounding black metal vibes, and that's my personal that I'm gonna go with. Although, if you don't already have Tales from the Thousand Lakes from Amorphis, the original recording, or this new re-recording at Tavastia, I don't think you can go wrong with that one either. So, yeah. But no, absolutely. Whatever one was, really good, I would recommend supporting the artists. Yeah. Okay, well, we'll see how long this still goes on. I'm hoping, my plan is to at least do the end of the year. We'd give it a nice 6-month, test run of this format and see how we do, and what kind of funny albums come up throughout there, and what kind of interesting bird hijinks might come up on that. And we'll have an end-of-year review and see if, this will become a more permanent fixture of the channel. But, yeah, please look forward to the August update for metal albums with birds on the cover. Yeah, got it wrong immediately on the first episode. Look forward to the August edition of that. In about a month or so. But yeah, it's been great, and catch you all later, everybody.